And now, stand and cheer for your Talking Basketball podcast. Welcome back to this episode. This is the second part of a doubleheader. If you haven't heard the first, go back and listen to it. If you can't be bothered, that's all right. Just keep listening to this one, and hopefully you enjoy it. And don't forget, like and subscribe. I hate it when people say that. Well, Mark, we are at a point which is huge now. So this is the finals. Detroit taking on the Lakers, and after taking a 3-2 series lead back to Los Angeles, Detroit are poised to win their first NBA title in Game 6. They are one game away of winning their first title in the 1988-89 season. Now, I implore anyone listening to this who has not seen Game 6, Detroit versus Los Angeles Lakers in 88-89, please watch it, because arguably you've got to say it's one of the all-time performances. Top 10. Oh, I was going to say top 10, top 5.
Yeah,
it's got to be
top 5 for finals, no question.
So what happens? And damn it, I've forgotten when it happens. So basically, in this game, Isaiah is driving down middle of the court, gets near the key, he rolls his ankle.
Yeah.
Now, if just when you look at the clip, look at his freaking shoes. It looks like tennis shoes.
They are like those, the plimsolls that you had to wear when you were at school.
They're not far off.
No, they're awful.
They're not far off. That is low cut. He rolls his ankle. Now, any basketball player out there, I think most of us have rolled our ankles. You know that pain that you go through. And this guy rolls his ankle. He is done. He is done. Now, what happens next is why it's arguably one of the greatest all-time performances for a single player in NBA history in a NBA Finals. Again, my personal opinion is because what happens next is Isaiah goes to the bench, closes his eyes, puts himself into some place mentally, and then goes, right, I'm going to carry on playing, and steps up, and he's hobbling on the court. He can't run. And then he scores, I think it was 25 points in the third quarter on a severely sprained ankle. That's what then goes and happens.
There's a great clip of that where you see him running up the court at one point. And when you see him running, it's like his whole body, he's contorting it to try and offset that, putting his weight on it. And he takes the shot, goes down the left-hand side, does one of his jump shots, and he's taking off from the other foot.
Yeah. And he hops like in the crowd,
and then when
he
he lands, and then he hops, and you think, how do you take off from the other foot to take a shot? And you're taking off on that foot because the other one seriously hurts. I mean, like him or not, that's flipping impressive.
Well, 25 points in the third quarter alone. And I don't know if this is still an NBA Finals record, but I think it is. 25 points in the third quarter.
Wow.
Again, on a rolled ankle. Now, the Lakers win the game. The Lakers win the game by 1 point. And I think any Detroit fan listening to me will know exactly what I'm about to say. This is known as the Phantom Foul. So Detroit are up by 1. Isaiah on one leg. They're up by 1. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gets the ball. Bill Laimbeer's marking him. Kareem does his classic turnaround hook shot. Laimbeer jumps up completely straight. There is air. Foul. And you're like, I've watched that clip a lot trying to see what the ref was calling there.
I had a look this morning.
That is no foul. That is not a foul.
All I would say is, if you're going to call Bill Laimbeer for a foul, I think he'd be more disappointed at the fact that, like, you're calling me for that. Like, I have flattened people and you've been like, not sure, was that a charge or not?
Well, it's known as the phantom foul.
Yeah.
Referred to by many as the phantom foul. And I can't remember where I heard this, but someone said it might have been a Detroit player. No, maybe it's someone in the press. They said the ref didn't call him for that foul. They called him for the 2,000 fouls he did on another 2,000 guys that didn't get called.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, what the other two referees saw, because they must have seen, hang on, that is not a foul. I don't know. But it's, again, that's what's beautiful about basketball. Like, you know, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Kareem goes
someone
to
can
line,
come in and completely
2 shots.
stitch up the rest of the game.
But, you know,
It's a beautiful thing.
it's...
Rumour has it that ref actually is the one that is currently training all the current NBA refs. And that's why they're all so shocking.
Wow. Well, look, Mark, it's an incident that we're still talking, like, what, 35 years later?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, so, sorry, where was I going? So they lose by 1. Kareem goes to the line, scores both free throws, go to the line.
And that's
now,
in LA, isn't it?
It wasn't Lakers. Yeah, that was in the Forum. Yeah. So, and then look, Isaiah is then on the ankle. He's then run an entire half on a severely sprained ankle. I think it was, I want to say it was Joe Dumas that said they saw him take his shoe off and he was like, oh, shit, Isaiah's out, he's done. And then the next thing, Isaiah's walking on to play the third quarter and he's like, wow, okay. Like, so game 7, Detroit lose to the Lakers by 3 points. And the Lakers, let's not forget they're playing here. The Lakers are now the first team to go back-to-back NBA champions since, I want to say the Boston Celtics in '69. You're nodding, you're looking at your stats. However, if that referee did not call that foul, that wasn't a foul, this could be Detroit's first championship. Arguably, that should be Detroit's first championship.
Wow.
You got to say that.
Yeah, what's funny
Got to
is
say it.
you look at it and you go, Lakers 1980, Celtics 81, Lakers 82. And I haven't got down 83 actually. I think it was, I'll have to look up. 84 was Celtics, 85 was Lakers, 86 was Celtics, 87 was Lakers, 88 was Lakers. You're like, oh my God, like they're just literally just trading.
Yeah. But
and that's why, you know, this Detroit is so important as well, because that rivalry, they were literally swapping championships year on year. And then Detroit came in almost like in the middle of that.
just trying to upset it, but
and just disrupting it.
just couldn't get over those hurdles. So look, they've finally got over the Celtics hurdle, and they are now met with the other juggernaut in the West.
Yeah.
They get called a phantom foul, lose the championship. And that's that. So we're now in the 89-90 season.
Yep.
Just drawing a line under my notes.
Do you know what? It always confuses me with the seasons, because whenever you look at the seasons and then they'll say what year the championship is,
Yeah.
it will say 88, 89. Okay, there's the championship. What does the championship say? Well,
89. Well, Mark, we're going to bring up something that you brought up.
yes.
Your throw under the bus question that I only knew
Yes.
because of what happens now. So the Pistons start the 88-89 season, and the legend known as Jack McCloskey, he makes a huge trade. So he takes Adrian Dantley.
Yep.
And trades that superstar for Mark Aguirre. This is during the 88-89 season.
Yes.
He makes that trade. And I don't think the Detroit Pistons started well that season. Then they make this trade during the season. So again, going back to your question, who is Mark Aguirre? Mark Aguirre is the number 1 pick of the NBA when Isaiah went through and was the number 2 pick.
Yeah, I know.
He also is from Chicago.
Oh, is he?
And good mates with Isaiah. So I know Adrian Dantley always was like, there was a lot of hostility, I think, coming between Dantley and Thomas in those days. And they could feel, hang on, what's going on here? They got rid of one of the problems.
Yep.
Brings in Isaiah's best mate, Mark Aguirre.
Lovely.
So, you know what I always think is really interesting? When you talk about seasons nothing. People will just talk playoffs, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think that's why you get players like Kobe, who was just like, it's just about the ring now. Who gives a crap? It's the ring. That's their focus, is that.
Yeah.
'Cause in 20 years' time, you're not thinking...
Oh, they won. They went 54 and 36. I don't care.
Yeah, so it all comes down to the playoffs.
Well, look at the playoffs the year just gone. You had 2 teams going into the finals. You had people like the Lakers and the Heat and stuff. They didn't make the play. They actually had to do the play-ins. They had to win the play-ins, and they were bottom seeded in the play-ins to get to the point of getting to the playoffs. And then they just started knocking people out. And you think, what? In the old days, they'd never even been out.
So do you like it or not?
Yeah, I'm undecided. I like the fact that you're still letting people have a chance. I think it's a bit odd though.
You're undecided. I agree with that. I'm undecided.
I think the problem is
it'd be worse if they said everyone gets in.
I don't like being controversial. Well, yes, I do. You're saying it's the 88-89.
Yes.
That was an inaugural season for them as well, wasn't it? Because they used to play in the Pontiac Silverdome. And that was very famous.
No, Mark, you're a season ahead.
Nope.
Yeah, you are.
They moved in 1988 into the Palace at Auburn Hills. And the Silverdome was a very interesting building, if no one's ever heard of it. It was very famous because it was...
you're right. You're right.
Of course
I wrote my note for the Palace coming in the wrong place. I did it after my story here.
So the thing about the Silverdome, I don't know if you know this, but it was one of the first buildings, or there was a few at the time. It was one of the last ones that still had this roof. And the roof was actually made of like a fabric, and it was held up by air. I know it sounds really silly to say it, but it was one of the last ones to do that. So they thought they were going to sell that and it was going to become something else. And the developers tried to resurrect it, but it turned out it was just not going to happen. But the Silverdome used to they used to do the NHL games as well there. It would be like 82,000 people. So it was one of the biggest arenas. So can you imagine that at the time? Going to watch a basketball game in the early 80s, you got like 80,000 people in a watching a basketball
I think
game.
what Detroit used to do, they would have...
It was the Detroit Lions at the same time.
I think they would have half the, let's say 1/2 of, I guess the NFL court.
Yes.
Not court, pitch, would have fans in it.
Yep.
Then they would put the court going along the side, and then they would build bleachers on the pitch.
They've done something very recently in one of the college games.
So it wasn't the full thing. So
No.
it would have been, it wouldn't have been 80. It would have been like at least.
It'd be like 30,000 at least.
Yeah, at least 30.
But ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous regardless. And so they moved to the Palace in Auburn Hills. And that is, I think, worth mentioning because the Palace is so ingrained, I think, in the Detroit folklore.
Yeah.
Because with Boston, you had the Garden. When they moved to the Palace, that was theirs. And it became a really formidable venue. Like, you didn't want to go, because like you said, people didn't want to go to Detroit. And then they bought this bad boy image, and now they've got a new stadium.
Yeah. And, the Palace, that was a great arena.
Palace of Auburn Hills.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we'll continue on with the 88-89 season, Mark. So they've traded Dantley, they got Mark Aguirre, and the team goes on to 63 wins in the regular season, beating the previous Was it the previous year where they got 53? Something like that. Anyway, they do very well. Steamroll straight through the playoffs, get to the NBA Finals with a rematch against the Lakers.
Kurt Rambis.
Rambis, yeah.
That was the dude who had the mullet. Yes, Kurt Rambis.
I was
sitting there, I've been really digging through my head. It's like I can see the mullet and I can see the things, but I couldn't think of his name.
I'm just going to pause for a moment because
I got him mixed up once, weirdly. There was a picture of him, and I thought it was Phil Jackson. And I don't know if you've ever seen Phil Jackson in his youth, but he had the mullet sort of thing going on as well, with the tash.
Yes, well, that brings me to this point, which is really valid. If you're interested in the Lakers, there is a TV show called Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a great TV show. So it's like, it's basically a TV show about how the Lakers became Showtime Lakers.
All
and
right.
it starts with, I think it starts before Magic gets traded, but you see, sorry, who's the head coach again? Who becomes head coach?
Pat Riley.
Pat Riley. So you see Pat Riley when he looks like he's smoking drugs. You see him in those days.
He still does now. He lives in Miami.
No,
as well,
but you know what? He looks like a
very
hippie.
suspicious.
You see him when he looks like a hippie. You see Jerry West going nuts.
Pre-New York Pat Riley. That's what you're trying to say. Because New York Pat Riley was the slick Pat Riley.
And it's all about Jerry Buss.
Yeah.
It's all about him, but it's great. And it's about how he acquires the Lakers, and he gets in the Lakers. They have the touring cast, then they get Magic. And it's all about that, and it goes off from there. But if you've not seen it, I really recommend Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. I would take it with a pinch of salt, because how can you verify any of these conversations happen? Yeah. But it's actually, I think it's 2 seasons long. Maybe 3.
What's it on? It's just out there somewhere.
It's out there. It's out there. But I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good.
All right. No, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. Check it out.
I don't
it's really
knowingly
good.
go to look for Lakers stuff.
You'll recognise some of the actors. So some of the actors.
All right. Look, you mentioned Pat Riley. It's worth mentioning Pat. Like, what a career to be. Because he was assistant.
Mark, this is a show about the bad boys.
I know, but he was assistant coach there, and then they were like, I think something happened, and they went, get rid of that coach.
He was announcer, Mark.
Yeah, but
he was announcer,
and then he went
to assistant coach, then head coach.
But I think it was Johnson who apparently went to Jerry Buss.
Jerry Buss.
Yeah, whatever. And went to him and basically went, get rid of that coach. He wasn't gelling with whatever, and they were like, oh yeah, that wasn't the reason that we got rid of the coach. And then sure enough, and then they went, right, Pat, you've now been promoted to head coach. And then they and then they won the next one. And then, and then that Showtime Lakers came about. And you look at that and go, was that one of the first times? We're talking about pivotal moments, and how the 80s was quite pivotal. I think when it was around that time, that's got to be one of the first players that has actually influenced what the coaches are doing. And people argue in modern times about someone like LeBron, for example, having massive impact about like Ty Lue and saying bring these people in or go do this, and the massive Shaq did the same when he went from like Miami to Lakers and Orlando and stuff, and the power of a player against a coach and that sort of thing. That's huge, but actually that's as far back as Magic goes. And we saw that obviously with Jordan, but that's as far back as that goes. With Magic doing that to get the Showtime Lakers, who then did that. Whereas in Detroit, you didn't have that. You had the Detroit staff making all the and then putting the team together, going, "You guys are going to work together." When you think of it that way, it wasn't like let's bring the best players in. It was like, yeah, they are great players, but they're probably all going to hate each other. But
I think they got people with the right mindset. Well, like Jack McCloskey, he was the man.
That's what I mean. So he was putting those people in, and you think, blimey, like that was brave compared to like go get that player. I want this person, which is what you kind of see nowadays.
And this is the classic one I wanted to talk about. The great story about Lane Beer. I'm sure it's this one. Oh shoot, hang on. Before I talk about this, I'm just going to go back in time again.
Time travel.
We're going to go back in time.
We need a time travel noise.
Because a lot of people know, younger guys know Jordan. So I'm just highlighting this Jordan. So before the Detroit Pistons took on the Celtics in the conference finals in 88-89,
Yep.
they took on Jordan.
Yep.
As I'm quoting Bill Lane Beer, we took on Jordan and the Jordanettes.
Jordanettes.
And obviously the Detroit won in 6 games.
Yep.
But this is where Jordan is now physically strong. He's mentally strong. So he served up 46 points in one of these games. I think it was the first or second game, actually. The Bulls go up 2-1. They're up 2-1. And this, I think when they go up 2-0, this is where Isaiah goes out on, I think by a lake or something like that. And he's sitting there and he comes up with the Jordan rules of Joe Dumars.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So this is the Jordan rules where they're just like double team him, triple team him, make him pass the ball. And if he comes into the key, boom, put him on the floor. Okay. So, I mean, that is a real summarization of the Jordan rules. I'm sure they're a lot more intricate than that. But anyway,
Someone did a book on it, I think.
I think the key factor for me in the 89 series against the Bulls is the mental fortitude of the Detroit Pistons. You know, they're not even, they're like just on another plane. They're like, right, okay, you know, Jordan, all right, who else is going to win it? 89. So this time the Pistons come out to take on the Lakers. And I think it's game 2. Magic pulls up with a hammy. But the the Pistons absolute steamroll them, sweep them, beat them 4-0. Joe Dumars is named finals MVP. And the Detroit Pistons claim the NBA championship. So it's a great moment for them because the years and years and years of determination, the years of like going for that goal, going against a dynasty, and then getting over that hurdle, and then they don't make it, going up against another dynasty for the second time, and they finally got over the hurdle. They finally get that championship. Now, what is really interesting in this is, Joe Dumars got MVP, finals MP.
Yes.
For that. So, what is really interesting here, and this is huge, I know you'll have a view on this.
Never.
Pistons are now NBA championships. They go back to Detroit. They have a huge celebration in Detroit. All the fans are out. They're all celebrating.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
And what happens is the day of celebration, but it's also the day of the NBA expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
And every team, my understanding, could only protect 8 players.
That's right.
So they've protect 8 players. Now you've got Rick Mahorn, you know, one of the other taps of, Bill Lane Beer. One of them's getting you, real strong player. He gets picked up in the expansion draft by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I've seen this clip, and he's emotional to this day. He cries about it, because he's like, I won a championship on the day I'm celebrating in the city. I got traded to Minnesota. And, he always said he wanted to be the one to defend it. And he never got that opportunity. You look like you're going to say something.
No. I'm just waiting for you to...
No, I'm there.
Well, I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah.
I mean, what... I feel sorry for him.
I was just literally trying to find something about what Mahorn did afterwards, just to make sure I'd fact-checked it. I did get it right, luckily. I wasn't completely crazy. Firstly, yeah, shocking and outrageous, because the 2 expansion teams were the Magic and the Timberwolves.
Yes. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So he got traded to the Timberwolves,
Yeah.
and he said, "I'm not turning up for them. They can jog on."
Oh, really?
And he didn't. He, like you said, "I'm refusing to play for you. I'm not playing for you. Who the hell are you? I'm not playing." And you've got to remember, goes back to your story you were saying earlier, when they said, "Oh, you're going to go play Detroit," and he's like, "Hell no, that's not happening."
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he had exactly the same attitude.
So what happened?
He got traded
To
76ers and went and played with Charles Barkley in Philadelphia.
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so him and Chuck then became Pump and Dunk. That's what everyone heard, Pump and Dunk. That's what they were.
Oh, right.
And that's where Mahorn went and played with him for like 3 or 4 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But he literally, they were like, "You could been traded." And he's like, "Yeah, you can jog on, mate." And they're like, no, we expect you there. Now, how?
Hang on, you were just saying that the West wasn't strong.
Yeah. West wasn't that strong. But do you know what's really interesting? Fast forward to, we're in November 2023. We've just had a whole scenario in the NBA with James Harden. And what was he doing? He was saying, "I'm refusing to go and play. I'm at the Sixers. I'm refusing to go back to practice. I'm refusing to turn up to play." So they went, "All right, fine." Well, they traded him. And they traded him to the Clippers because he was refusing to show up or anything.
Okay.
And then
I never knew that about Rick Mahorn.
yeah, they literally just went, "Off you go."
But I feel for him. Like, you just won a championship.
You're on the parade. You're on the parade.
It's literally parade day.
They were like, oh, can I have a quick word? And he's thinking, they're going to get us like special suits. They're going to do the crazy ring thing, whatever.
He has got scars. I've seen him cry. He's got scars to this day on that. So yeah, I mean that is huge.
Yeah, how do you do? Not just how do you do that, but on the day of the parade.
You thought they would? Oh, I don't know.
If they
NBA aren't waiting for you to do a parade, are they? They're just cracking on.
But that shows as well. That's the mentality that the ownership had on the team, and Jordan talks about that in The Last Dance, how some of the challenges with the organizations that the players have had, where they're like, you treat us like a commodity basically, and you just trade us away like we're nothing. And that's where then you go into the era of LeBron, where it's like the players have all the power and stuff, and it's a little bit, it needs to be somewhere in between, I think. Incidentally, that was the fun fact I was checking out. It was Larry Bird who made the Larry Bird rule came out, and that was all about contracts, wasn't it? In that time period that you're talking about, because the Celtics couldn't afford to put Larry Bird and pay him again, because the rule was if you were at a team, you couldn't offer them any more money, and they're like, "That's crazy. We drafted him. He's a player. He's our player. He wants to stay with us. But you're saying that another team can offer him the same amount of money. That doesn't seem fair." So the new rule came out where it's like, if you're the incumbent team, you can offer your player extra money. Fast forward to now, that's why everyone gets these max contracts.
Larry Bird rule.
Larry Bird rule.
Well, Mark, look, the Lakers, they had done the double.
Yes.
Back-to-back titles. And it was in the 1989 to 90 season.
Yep.
When Detroit went, "Let's do what not many people can do. Let's see if we can do that as well." And they went on 59 games in that season, third straight division title. Pistons cruised through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs before a tough Eastern Conference Finals against Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Now, this is the famous one. This is the one. And look, as we've gone through the seasons, the playoffs, you can feel, and this is why I've gone back to highlight the Bulls every playoffs, is because you can feel them getting stronger and stronger and stronger, can't you? So in the first time they met in the playoffs, Detroit beat them in 5 games.
Yep.
Second times, 6 games. You get now, it goes to game 7. Now this is the one where you got to say, for 5 out of 7 games, maybe, you know, the individual brilliance of Michael Jordan, unquestioned. But Game 7 is the one that everyone remembers as Scottie Pippen and the migraine. And there's a great quote I saw by Bill Laimbeer. He was like, look, in Detroit, unless you're dying, like, you're getting out on that court. Like, we don't care. Like, even if you got a broken leg, you're going out there. Like, don't forget, it was 2 seasons. Isaiah rolled his ankle and played in the actual finals. So, but yeah, so, you know, obviously we know what happens that Game 7, Detroit, and I gotta say, I think the veteranness, I'm not sure if that's the right word. They've been there, they've done it. Sometimes when these teams, they've been there, they've done it. The new teams, it's that pressure, or, you know, sometimes that the veterans or the experience of that gets you through
Golden
it, isn't
State have done that in recent years.
Yeah, I was thinking Golden State as well.
Yeah, they've done that in recent years. They've got that experience, and they've got the time on the ball, and they've got the game time in the playoffs. And like you were saying earlier about, I won't say the league doesn't matter, but the league is just, where am I going to get standing when the playoff comes? That's what it really comes down to. And these guys, when you get into the playoffs, they just step up to a different level, and it's yeah.
Well, that's the one is always known as the Scottie Pippen migraine, and yeah, they lose in Game 7. I think that, and that was the 3rd straight season that the Pistons had beaten the Celtics. The Pistons had beaten the Bulls and knocked them out in the playoffs. Again, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that in the next season that we talk about.
Yep.
So they then go back to the finals for the 2nd consecutive year.
Yep.
And this time they're faced with the Portland Trail Blazers, who actually beat them Game 1. I can't remember who says it, but I've seen it, and he's like, "We're going to the crib." One of the guys goes, "We're going to the crib. We're going to the crib." But Portland Trail Blazers, if you've not, I'm sure you've heard of him. Clyde Drexler, he was playing for them at the time.
Clyde the Glide.
So they split the first 2 games. The first 2 games were at the Palace, and Portland still one of those games. So they got home court advantage now.
Yeah, they used to do it differently, didn't they? They used to do the 2 games, then 3 games, then 1 and 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's what that guy was saying. We're going to the crib. So he's basically, yeah, that's what he said. We're going to the crib and we're not coming back.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So, and the thing that everyone was talking at the time was Detroit had not won a game in Portland since 1974.
Wow.
And again, it was Bill Laimbeer with his, what's the word?
Enthusiastic approach.
Well, it's just like, screw you. Like, you know, records are there to be broken.
That's
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Enthusiastic
approach.
It was very so what. You've done this before. So what? And they had already had a ring now by that point. So they're like, now, so what? You've done this.
I think it was Isaiah who said that feeling of becoming NBA champion is intoxicating, and you do anything to get it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So anyway, Detroit haven't won in Portland since 1974. They then go on to win Game 3, 4, and 5, all 3 games in Portland, becoming the first NBA team to sweep the middle 3 games on the road.
Yep. Because now we don't do middle 3 games.
Correct.
On the road.
And I think it was the microwave, Vinnie Johnson, who hit I want to say it was like less than a second. He hit like a 15-foot jump shot to win the game. And since then, I think all the bad boys call him 007 rather than the microwave. Isaiah got NBA Finals MVP. Now, there is an amazing story in this series that I just wanted to go back and talk about. And that is around Joe Dumars.
Yeah.
So, Joe Dumars, his dad wasn't doing very well at all. Okay, and you know, he was he's basically on his last legs, his dad. And before game 3, Joe Dumars' dad dies.
Yeah.
And the family didn't tell Joe Dumars because he wanted to play the game first. So he goes into the game and plays not knowing his dad's passed away.
No.
And he then goes off and scores 33 points in that game. There's one really amazing moment, I think, is Joe Dumars drives in and he just throws this shot up, and it just goes like a teardrop, I guess is how I describe it. It just goes so high and then just drops in. But what I like about it, he looks at Isaiah and just pulls this face like, how the hell did that go in? And Isaiah just looks at him, but in Isaiah says this later. He looks at him and just goes, yeah, your dad helped you with that one.
Wow.
Because Isaiah knows, Chuck Daly knows, not many people know, but he knows. Game finishes, they obviously take game 3. They're in the locker room. They say, Joe Dumars, you got to follow me. So he walks out. Isaiah's behind him. Chuck Daly's with him. They walk in the office and say, take this call. It's your wife. You need to answer this call. His wife breaks the news to him. He's still in his kit, like sweaty kit, just from winning game 3. And he then goes straight to the airport where the owner's plane is waiting for him.
Wow.
So he's in his kit, and then he flies back to sort out his dad's funeral and be around for that. And the team were like, look, he needs to do what he needs to do. They weren't expecting him back. He comes back for game 4, scores 26 points. So, that's a really great story to be part of that series, I think. That there's...
Yeah, I mean...
I want to say almost that bit of angelness in there where he's
Angelness?
just... Well, he just goes on fire. Isaiah knows what's going on. He's like, your dad helped you with that one.
You hear something like
that's
that.
That's a great story.
It's either going to break you or you're going to hyper-focus on whatever you're doing to get yourself through it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, I just was looking at that stat, actually. 2 things. One, I'm totally correcting myself. It is the other way around. So this you're talking about is the 1990 NBA Finals, yeah? And the season is 89 to 90.
Oh, that's what I thought it was,
Yeah, it was. I got it the wrong way around. That's my bad. But
so if they win 89... So, like, this one I'm talking about now is the 89 to 90. So they would say you're 1990 champions. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, yeah.
And so, the other 2 facts were, one, they are one of the only teams to win in the 90s were the Pistons, the Bulls, the Rockets, and San Antonio at the end.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, I guess in the 80s, you've got what?
And in the 80s, this was the first time since 1979 that neither the Lakers nor the Celtics were in a final. The 1990.
Wow. Jeez.
Since 1979. So
Well, that
11 years without...
That highlights...
How tough that was.
How the dominance and how difficult it was to overcome that.
And what's maybe not sad, but because you had Celtics versus Lakers, and that's what will always be in history. That's why, we quite like the idea of talking about the bad boys, because not only were they such characters, it was such an important part of that whole story that sometimes gets missed, and they just sometimes get mentioned a bit like Houston does. People will put a footnote next to Houston winning because Michael Jordan was retired. No, they had Hakeem Olajuwon. It's like one of the greatest centers of all time, who absolutely lit up, and they won back-to-back championships. But people go, oh yeah, it's because Jordan retired. You go, no, you can't put an asterisk on it like that. They won it because they won it. The bad boys did the same.
You can only play who's in front of you.
Exactly, and the bad boys did the same thing. And they beat Jordan, and they beat Larry Bird. They beat Johnson. You put someone in front of them, they beat him.
And you know what?
Physically and literally.
They did that back to back. And that's what, they won those 2 years in a row. And you could question if that, and this is why I highlighted it so much at the time, if that referee didn't do that phantom call, you would argue, would they have had 3 in a row? The first team to have 3 in a row. You got to argue it because they had 2 and they were like about to win at game 6.
But if that had done that, that'd have had a knock-on effect to the other games. And also in the trades.
Maybe. But I'm just saying, I think that's a really, a what if moment.
Yeah, I mean,
they won it
if
in
87.
88, 89.
But you're also talking, say, 86, 85, 86.
No, this was like he called a foul and he scored from the free throw. And like, if that foul wasn't called, game was over.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're going to do that, you've got to roll it back as well and talk about
Isaiah?
Isaiah when he had the ball and Larry's.
But
if they'd have done that, they would have rolled the Celtics then. If they'd have rolled the Celtics then,
could they have? But
could
this
they have
was,
gone then? And then in that case, that would have positioned them differently in a draft. So they wouldn't have got Sally. They wouldn't have got Rodman.
No, they would have at that moment. Oh God, you're throwing me here.
1987 was Rodman and Sally.
86, 87 is when they got Sally and Rodman. Yeah. What I highlight about that phantom foul, is that was in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And if that didn't get called, they probably would have won the NBA championships. I'm not saying your one is that pass doesn't happen and then they're in the finals. Well, they still got to win the finals. This was they're in the finals, they're about to win it. That's why I argue I think they could have got 3 without that call. Excuse me.
Do you know what? The other thing I looked up, and I forgot to mention this earlier, it's a big shout out to the 1983 champions, because I totally forgot that in 1983 it was in fact our good friends, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they won it in
was,
83. And when you look down this list,
Dr. J.
It's Seattle Sonics and
Hang on, are you saying stuff then going back on it? People are going to listen to it and going, that's rubbish.
No, because I couldn't work out who it was, so I actually had to go and look up.
He got there a couple of times, and I think it was an 83 finally got over the hurdle.
Yep.
That was against the Lakers, wasn't it?
Lakers, yep. Because it was literally, I mean, you're looking at this, it's like Lakers, Celtics, Celtics. Just the whole way through.
Did you say latex?
Latex Celtics, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a club for that.
Right.
But you mentioned about Detroit being in both the finals, 4-1, obviously for the second one. Did you mention the fact that their first win was a complete sweep of the Lakers? It was 4-0, complete sweep.
Yes. Yeah, I did say that.
I mean, you can't, that's Showtime Lakers, complete sweep.
I mean, look, when they beat the Lakers and the Celtics, those dynasties were coming to a conclusion. You can't hide away from that fact. However, they beat them. But let me conclude, because we're right at the end of the story now. So, and I was shocked that people didn't know about this. Some of the kids I was talking to and stuff. I was like, anyway, hopefully they'll take something from this. So the Pistons then they go into the next season as back-to-back championships, and they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they meet for the 4th straight time, I believe, the Chicago Bulls. And this is where Chicago now have got that mental fortitude. Scottie Pippen.
Testicular fortitude.
Well, all that body work that Jordan went into, Scottie Pippen then goes into. And look, there were no migraines in this season. Bulls destroy them in 4 games.
They had Horace Grant as well. He was the same big guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue Horace Grant choked in the previous seasons.
Mm-hmm,
it was literally just Jordan. You could argue, but yes, in this game, it was the breakthrough for the Bulls. Now, what I think is this is going to start another bloody debate. I just realised how long we've been talking. This was the one. A couple of points I want to make with this is Joe Dumas. He actually says about talking about Chicago Bulls. He goes like, guys, they're us. Like, they've been trying to beat us for 3 years. We've been trying to beat the Celtics for 3 years. Like, they are us. It's their turn. And this is when the Bulls get the breakthrough. They finally beat them. It's game 4. Game's over. And this is the famous walkout, the walk-off, which is where our story started as they... what's his name? Jack McCloskey, as they walk off and you see Jack McCloskey. But obviously this is Bill Laimbeer's idea.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. They walk off. I think it would look better if Isaiah didn't tilt his shoulder down. And he tilts it like he's hiding from him a little bit. If you're going to do it, do it. I think if they could go back in time, I think they would have just shook their hand.
I think you can only remember history if you were either there or by what information is presented to you through TV or what's written down. Unfortunately, Isaiah has this ability to keep trying to dig a hole for himself and just won't let things go and just say, if he'd have just said, I was hot-headed, I said the wrong things, or I did the wrong things that time, it was passionate, people would go, great. We've had sports people for years doing outrageous stuff or saying things or doing things, and people just go, fine. But for some reason, he constantly, I never did that. No, I never did that. It's like, dude, we've watched you on a film. Like, this isn't like JFK where we're making up who shot you. It's like everyone watched you sulk, get your handbag and walk out. And then the fact that the way that he tries to defend it, whether it's good intention or not, he doesn't do himself any favours. And the more he sticks to it, the more it's like, oh, it's like you're the guy who's in the corner of the pub talking about something that happened 30 years ago. It's like, no one cares anymore, mate.
But
it's boring.
You got to argue it's the best ending to the bad boys.
Oh, it is.
They were the bad boys. No one liked them.
And
They've finally been knocked out the playoffs by the Bulls. We're walking off. And you just see Jordan's face like, what is happening here? And I got a great quote from Jordan. He says this after this actual series. You see two different styles with us and them, the dirty play and the flagrant fouls and unsportsmanlike conduct. Hopefully, that will be eliminated from the game. I think we can play clean basketball. We don't go out and try and hurt people and dirty up the game. You never lose respect for the champions, but I haven't agreed with the methods they use. I think people are happy the game will get back to a clean game and away from that bad boy image. Now he's really focusing and hammering, the bad boys there. Do you know what my problem with that sentence is? Sorry, that few sentences. Celtics did it.
Yeah.
What was the guy you said? Ramsey. Not Ramsey. Was it Ramsey?
Rambis. Yeah.
What did Kevin McHale do? It took him out.
Yeah.
Like,
big time.
That's the one thing that.
He was.
That's the one thing that bothers me. It wasn't just the bad boys. Lots of teams were doing it. Lots of players were doing it. But I think
it was the way in which they did it. That was the problem. Who was it who played? Charles Oakley. That's who I think he played with was it Charles Oakley played with in the Bulls, and then he went to New York. He was a monster. And I know Jordan would be like, yeah, that guy just beat down on us, and he just didn't care. And they were physical, and they hit hard, and it was, 6'10", 7 foot guys. They were like brick walls. They weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But somehow it's because of the way in which they did it, because the fact the bad boys were like, we just don't care. We don't need your approval. We're going to beat you.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep going at you, and we're just going to beat you. And they probably did play dirty, and they did. I mean, Laimbeer was just shocking.
Legend.
But at the end of the day, look at people like now. I like Luka, but does he flop loads? Yeah. They're trying to bring rules in to stop all these sort of things, and the game is always going to evolve. And I think the Pistons did something that, let's be fair, 1990 was the last time they won that championship. The next time they won it was 2004.
Yeah, 2000. They had to wait a while for it, but
well, you think that's 14 years they had to wait for that. And that was with Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince. We saw him when we were.
Yeah.
But all of those guys, they didn't lean into that. Although, ironically, 2004 was
Malice in the Palace, wasn't it?
Malice in the Palace, yeah.
I think they were a very physical team.
They were a very physical team, so they lent on that whole idea, but they maybe didn't quite go into it. And then obviously that then happened, which put quite a few people out, because that was 2004, 2005, I think.
Yeah.
So they were champions by then, but yeah, that was not
Well,
highlight. So Detroit have built that. But if you think that Detroit are one of the oldest teams, the first official game in the NBA was played in 1949. That's the first official NBA game.
okay.
Played by the New York Knickerbockers and Toronto. Believe it or not.
Didn't they try to play it like they played it
It was in
a
Toronto.
day early before whoever was going to play, I think, wasn't it?
I think so. The 3-point line didn't come until 1979. So my argument is that fundamentally changed the game, especially nowadays. So I would argue any
God, I know where you're going with this.
any trophy before 1979,
Doesn't count.
well, it's a different league. It's a different
So
league.
Seattle lose their... Oh, he's thinking of it. He's saying, hang on, let me take that back.
Oh no.
Well, Mark, look, let's round this up. Let's talk about the demise of the bad boys. So
Yeah.
after losing to the Bulls in 1991, I think there's a couple of seasons, but that's pretty much when the bad boys end. I think it ends up with Isaiah and Bill Laimbeer getting in a fight. Isaiah punches Bill Laimbeer in the face, breaks his wrist, something like that. And I think Laimbeer retires in 93. Thomas retires in 1994. Rodman gets traded. Sally gets traded. The bad boys end.
Yep.
Now,
Rodman goes to the Spurs for those 3 years,
yeah.
and then or a few years, and then incidentally joins the Bulls.
Well, I wanted to end this on one point, which was going back to the start with the introduction of Isaiah Thomas. And I'm going to make this point, and I don't care what anyone says, I'm sticking by this. Isaiah Thomas is a better player than Christian Laettner. Fact.
What?
Isaiah Thomas is a better player than Christian Laettner. Isaiah Thomas should have been in the US Dream Team. Fact. And that's
wow.
that's in 1992. The US Dream Team. Isaiah doesn't get put in it. I don't know there's a lot of conjecture about Jordan saying I'm not playing with him, but look, that entire league hated the bad boys. And you can't say that the bad boys, what they did over a 10-year period or whatever it was, 8-year period, didn't contribute to the fact that Isaiah wasn't picked in the Dream Team. Look,
Yeah.
Christian Laettner was a college player, and I know at the time they were sending all the best college players there,
Yes.
but you got 11 future all-stars in that squad. Why put a college player in there? Why?
So I originally thought
Isaiah should have gone.
I originally thought it was because they had to, because the same way of even now with boxing in the Olympics, you can't have a professional boxer enter. They have to be, semi-professional or whatever. So when you see a boxer in the Olympics, often they'll come out the Olympics, get a medal or do well, and then you'll start seeing them in the professional circuit.
All right,
I thought that's why all the college people, you weren't allowed to send professionals.
I'll make a different point then, Mark.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas is better than some of those players that went. I'm not going to say who I think, but Isaiah should have been on the team.
No, why not? You can't do that.
Isaiah should have been on the team.
Who should he have been? Who should he have
I'm
taken
not
off?
saying. Because it's just going to start a 50-minute debate with
No.
2 hours into this already.
I want to know. The dream team. Who
Do you think he should have been in it? Yes or no?
No.
Why?
If I'm really honest, because did he deserve a place there?
Yes.
Yes, I agree with that. Should he have been in the team? Hell no. They're two different questions.
I agree with your first statement. Should he been?
No,
Well,
no.
okay.
Did he deserve?
He could
He
have
deserved it. But the reality is, when we've had our 5 questions, and obviously,
upset the.
100% he would have, because everyone else on the team would have been like, I'm not playing with him. I don't want to play with him. And then you have, arguably, at that point, you got to remember, this is 92. Michael Jordan is the biggest star in the world. Not he's the biggest basketball player or even the biggest sports person. At that point, you don't really get any bigger than Michael Jordan. Like, he was...
Yeah.
You go to countries around the world who don't play basketball and they're like, Michael Jordan. He was so much bigger than anything else. And I'm not going to go in the whole GOAT debate thing, but I still don't... because you can't argue that. But Michael Jordan was the blueprint. And every professional basketball athlete now looks at Jordan, all defensive, all offensive, MVP, multiple rings, tenacious attitude, physicality, athleticism. He is the blue. His size, his everything, his charisma, all of the marketing he's done, the shoes, the lifestyle, everything about Jordan was a perfect blueprint. And you look at it, and the only thing they tried to get him on was that he liked gambling, whatever. He's the blueprint, and unfortunately, any other time period, Zeke would have been in that. But why would you argue against that's the blueprint? And that's not just the blueprint for everything that the game has been. Jordan is the blueprint for the game right now. You look at LeBron, it's Jordan. You look at Kobe, it's Jordan. You look at any player that picks up a ball today who's in an under-12 team who wants to go and play now, they're not wearing Magic Johnson shoes. They're not wearing Zeke shoes. They're wearing Jordans. He is the blueprint.
I agree with what you're saying.
So on that basis, if you want to go to the Olympics and you want to win a medal, you're not putting the players. You're putting the players together that you think, will they professionally work and lose their thing? And you've got to look at, historically, just before that, Zeke walked off, didn't do the handshake. His attitude in general things and general comments. He'd also made comments about making that statement with Larry Bird. So you look at the history that he's created for himself in that Bad Boys era. Oh yeah, let's put him in with all the other people.
Do you think that would have resolved a few things? Though,
No.
them playing together.
No, it would have not. They wouldn't have.
They allowed Magic to play.
Right?
He wasn't playing at the time.
No. Because he was one of the greatest basketball point guards ever. And Larry
Isaiah's pretty close to being second, I'd say.
He's a phenomenal point guard, and he always will be. The problem with Isaiah
is the baggage. What you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Isaiah is Dennis Rodman. That's why they're so perfect together. Rodman, arguably one of the greatest defenders players ever. What's the worst thing about Dennis Rodman? Is it that he's Dennis Rodman? He's an absolute walking nightmare. But on the court, he is amazing.
You could argue, though, Chuck Daly was the coach. He was Isaiah's coach.
Yeah.
He could have brought... Who knows? It's a what-if moment.
No
We're going to have to agree to disagree.
No, we don't. You're wrong.
Isaiah Thomas should have been in the dream team.
Look, when we do our 5...
We don't need to go on about this.
We do our 5 and Pine. It's the same rules apply. It's the same
I know what you're saying, because I'd like to put Isaiah and Lane Beer in my top 5, but I struggle to who would go with them. So I know the point you're trying to make. I still think Isaiah should have gone in the dream team.
Am I correct in thinking that the previous Olympics, they didn't do as well?
I think they lost to Russia.
Yeah, they came away with
lost by 1. It was
they came with a bronze medal.
Yeah, but I think they got knocked out in the semis by Russia by 1 point. I think they scored and then they thought the game was over. People were taking their shoes off and they went, oh, there's 2 seconds later, and it was a heave up the court. And
Dan Majal is the scoring leader. That says it all. But yeah, that's why I know when they did the dream team, they're like, we're going to bring everyone who's the A game.
Yeah.
And you go, at that point, Zeke was at the end of his career. Jordan was smack in the middle of it. If you're going to have to pick they're going to go Jordan.
I'm not... Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying I think Isaiah should have been on that team.
He deserved a place. but he just never would.
Let's leave it there. He deserved a place on the team. So that is the
God
bad
bless
boys.
you.
That is the bad boys. So there you go, Mark. That is a history of the bad boys.
And a history of pretty much 80s basketball, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because I'd say I won't say defined it, but they really made such a massive impact on it that everyone will, I won't say don't forget, but it's always Celtics and Lakers, and you go, and them. And of course, Philly, who in 83 won it.
Yeah, look, winning titles
Back to
is
back.
hard enough. They did it back to back
Yeah.
with dynasties all around them. And again, they're not talked about with love as much, but champions, my view is champions are champions, especially if you win 2 in a row. It's no easy feat, and the limited number of teams that have done it in NBA history, this needs to be celebrated.
Oh, 100%. Definitely needs to be celebrated. And they, by far, are one of the coolest kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that is the Bad Boys episode, Mark.
That is the Bad Boys
Detroit
episode.
Bad Boys episode. So if you like this, I mean, it's a bloody long thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll split it in half. But who wants to listen to 2 hours? Let us know, actually. Let us know if you
that's
prefer
what I was going to say. If
long ones or short ones.
if this, if these numbers are good for this show,
Yep.
we'll do another NBA team.
Yeah, we're doing another
That's
NBA
what we'll
team.
do. If it goes well, we'll do another NBA team. If no one listens to it, we won't.
Fantastic.
But
So you better get listening.
I've got a good way to finish this, if that's all right.
Do it.
Yeah, I stole this from a TV show.
Lovely.
So anyway, that is. Oh, do you want to say anything before we go? No. Well, brilliant. Well, that is the Bad Boys. So look, if you're truly a fan of the sport of basketball, you've got to include the Bad Boys in your recognition of the league's greatest champions. And I think we can safely say that if you don't agree with that, then the Bad Boys will just say you can